Hello, good evening and welcome to this English news edition. Tonight as headlines we have concerning Djibouti Qatar Corporation, the laying of first stone of Al Doha Mosque. In Zambia, the government will host the summit of child marriage.
Thanks for joining us. A stone laying ceremony organized by the Ministry of Muslims Affairs, Culture and Waqfs took place this morning in Section 7 neighborhood. The ceremony has been presided by the President of the Republic, His Excellency Ismail Mergele. The ceremony has seen the participation of the Prime Minister Abdul Qadir Kamil Mohammed, the Minister of Muslims Affairs Mr. Aden Hassan Aden, the Qatari Minister of Muslims Affairs Mr. Kay bin Mubarak Al Kauri, as well as the members of the government, representatives of the Djiboutian Armed Forces, ambassadors, the Director of Diwan Mr. Bashir Gelle, and civil officials, as well as the Ambassador of Djibouti in Qatar Mr. Mumin Barre. The construction of a mosque called Al Doha will be financed by the friendly and brotherly country of Qatar. This mosque will be one of the largest mosques to accommodate many faithful of different neighborhoods of the capital. The laying of the first stone of the Doha Mosque shows the strong relationship existing between the government of Qatar and the Republic of Djibouti. It also shows the cooperation between the two brotherly countries. The Ministry of Waqf has requested the help of the Qatari government for its construction, and the Director of Diwan and Waqf thanked Qatar for the construction of the mosque, which will serve the Djiboutian population.
The Minister of Muslims Affairs and Culture has, in his speech, said that this mosque will give more value to the region and will contribute to the dissemination of good morals of programming the religious worship as well as good education, especially for the youth of our country. The laying of the first stone is part of a relation undertaken by the head of state, Ismail Mergele, in the framework of the socio-economic development process. The minister has said that through this he will reactivate the major role of the mosque. He thanked in his speech the head of state for the sponsorship of laying the first stone of Doha Mosque. This project of building this mosque is funded by the government of Qatar. The Minister of Muslims Affairs relayed the importance of the Qatar delegation in his visit, led by the Qatar Minister of Waqfs, Mr. Kay bin Mubarak. This mosque symbolized the faithful cooperation relation between the two brotherly countries, as indicated the minister.
After these speeches, the President of the Republic, Mr. Ismail Mergele, has laid the first stone for the construction of the Al Doha Mosque. The President was accompanied by the Minister for Muslims Affairs of Qatar, Mr. Kay bin Mubarak Al Kauri, and the Djiboutian Minister of Muslims Affairs and Culture, Mr. Aden Hassan Aden. Note that the construction works of the mosque will last for more than a year.
The head of state, His Excellency Mr. Ismail Mergele, has received today at the Presidential Palace a Qatari delegation led by Dr. Gay bin Mubarak, who is the Minister of Muslims Affairs. During this meeting, the President of the Republic has received with the Qatari Minister of Muslims Affairs several topics of common interest before considering the ways and means to further enhance the relation of privileged cooperation between the Republic of Djibouti and the State of Qatar. This meeting has brought together the Minister of Islamic Affairs, Mr. Aden Hassan Aden, the advisor of the President for the Arab Affairs, Mr. Issa Khaire, as well as the Ambassador of Djibouti in Qatar, Mr. Momin Hassan Barre. In an interview granted to the press, the Minister of Muslim Affairs and Waqfs in Qatar has emphasized that his visit comes in the aims of strengthening the bilateral relation between the two countries, and that he came to the assist in the laying of the first stone of Al-Doha Mosque.
Still in the national news, the Secretary of State for Youth and Sports has organized the anniversary ceremony of the President of the Republic yesterday in the CDC of the capital. This anniversary is held every November 27th, and on this occasion, the Secretary of State for Youth and Sports has organized the celebrations of this anniversary for the third consecutive year. For this purpose, cultural sporting activities dedicated in honor of the birthday of President were held. While wishing happy birthday, the participants and organizers asked the Almighty to grant its mild favors to the President of the Republic while enlightening on the right path. They promised to support the President for the smooth performance of noble tasks entrusted to him.
A seminar on regional integration was closed this morning at the Institute of Diplomatic Studies. The seminar's theme was about challenges and opportunities analysis of international experience. For a week, diplomats, high officials of public and para-public sector were on the fact that forming a regional integration is a matter of great importance to our economy. This training will allow our executive to prepare a defense of our economic interests in the regional forum. The closing ceremony was chaired by the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Mr. Mohammed Ali Yusuf, and so the participation of Director Institute of Diplomatic Studies, Musa Ali Megag. The training on regional integration was exempt by the international expert, Mr. Christian Gimmers. During this training, diplomats and senior officials have acquired basic experiment of regional integration to be able to identify the economic sector in which we have a competitive advantage. At the end of the ceremony, certificates were handed out to all participants by the Minister of Foreign Affairs, a Director of an Institute of Diplomatic Studies and International experts who provide this training. Their involvement in the international expert and the Director of Institute of Diplomatic Studies, Mr. Musa Ali Megag, have emphasized the importance of this training for the development of regional economic integration.
During his speech, the Minister of Foreign Affairs has addressed his word to the participants by encouraging them. He said, "For 1 week you have discussed and you had made an interaction sessions on experiences that have been successful in other countries. As Mr. Gimmers has certainly given us, and I believe it is very important," said the Minister, "to first include a number of elements in these experiences that can be useful for our own integration in our region." The Minister was also convinced that this can allow you to be able to act in the sector of skills that are yours, and you can precisely contribute to the regional integration envisaged by our country and the Horn of Africa. As you know, the Djiboutian economy is mainly oriented to countries such as Ethiopia, which has a significant defense economic area, and it is a market of 90 million people, he concluded.
The Secretary of State for Youth and Sport is deploying socio-educational programs capable of ensuring the organization, supervision, and protection of youth, and implement strategies and programs against delinquency. It is in this context that the Gasha Malay Association organized the third edition of the running. This race saw the participation of 100 young people from different neighborhoods. The winners were awarded trophies. At the end of the race, the president of the association, Gashamale, has addressed sincere thanks to the Secretary of State for Youth and Sport, Mr. Badul Hassan Badul, for the proliferation of sport and cultural activities for the development of youth in Djibouti according to the roadmap. The head of state, His Excellency Mr. Ismail Margele.
And now on the continental scene, Zambia will host the African Union First African Summit on ending child marriages in Africa. The two-day summit, in the context with the AU's theme for 2015 Year of Women's Empowerment and Development toward 2063 agenda, is expected to accelerate Zambia's fight against child marriages by sharing experiences with other member states. Let's listen with more details.
At the first African Girl Summit on ending child marriage in Lusaka, there is plenty of debates and ideas swirling around the conference hall. Every corner of the continent is represented. The dynamic, colorful print of national dress brightened the mood during discussions that are at the time depressing. UNICEF says by 2050 the numbers of child brides in Africa will more than double, surpassing South Asia as the region where the problem is worse. The African Union made it a priority, and at least here in Zambia, the government is listening. President Edgar Lungu said he wants to make sure my government has developed a strategy to end child marriage, which will be launched soon. It aims at ending the vice. I'm not interested in curbing the vice, but in eliminating it. Lungu talked about a wide-range review of government's policy, including the Marriage Act and gender equity, and said that it's a violation of child rights perpetuated by people who don't understand the importance of protecting children's rights. The people he's talking about are the parents, and therein lies the enormity of the challenges. We're talking about changing cultural and traditional practices within millions of individuals' families, of arguments between boys and girls with their parents, tears, cold shoulders, eye rolling, and even perhaps beatings. But the African Union says this is a chain that must be broken. Why? Well, child brides are more likely to be an abusive physical and sexual relationship, more likely to contract HIV and other sexually transmitted diseases, of dying due to complications during pregnancy and childbirth, of having babies with a low birth weight and stillbirth. The list goes on. They're taken out of school, and so without education and economic development, they can't contribute to their country's growth.
After the hotel attack in Mali, another 3 people have died in a gun and rocket attack on a camp for UN peacekeeper in the northern Mali. UN and local sources confirm the figure. Let's watch this video.
Gunmen attack and fire rocket at a UN peacekeeping base in Kidal in northern Mali on Saturday, killing 2 soldiers and a civilian, the UN force said. Olivier Sadalgo, spokesman of the UN deployment in Mali known as Muzinma, told 20 people were wounded and 4 seriously. In the past, we had mortar shell outside, but this time they made it into the camp. The French troop and the UN force are struggling to stabilize the former French colony where armed assailants attacked a hotel in the capital on November the 20th and killed 20 people. 3 armed group Al-Qaeda and the Islamic Maghreb ACMI, its splitter group Al-Murabitum and Masima Liberation Front claimed the attack on the Radisson Blu Hotel. Security analysis said they could be collaborating. Northern Mali was occupied by fighters, some with link to Al-Qaeda, for most of 2012. They were driven out by a French-led military operation, but the violence has continued.
Still on the African continent, pirates attacked a Polish-owned cargo vessel off the Nigerian coast and kidnapped its captain and 4 crews, Polish authorities said, in the first documented incident of its kind in almost a year in some of the deadliest shipping lanes on Earth. For more details in this report.
The attackers captured 5 Polish nationals, including the captain and 3 officers of a small cargo ship, Safir. Polish Foreign Minister Witold said on Friday the assailant opened fire during the overnight incident in Nigeria's water. The ship sustained damages, but there were no report of injury and no trace of blood to be found, official says. The remaining 12 sailors managed to barricade themselves inside the ship during the encounter. They are safe and in contact by phone, according to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The incidents appear to be a pirate attack, according to Sea Industry and Navigation Minister Marit Grobzowski.
And now, in the United States, a shooting of a family planning cleaning in Colorado Springs has left 2 civilians and a police official dead, with the suspect gunman under the arrest. Let's listen to this comment.
3 people, including 1 police officer, have been killed after a gunman opened fire at an abortion clinic in the U.S. state of Colorado. 9 other people, including another 5 officers, were wounded in the attack. A man was eventually arrested almost 5 hours after the siege began at the Planned Parenthood Center in Colorado Springs. Police believe he acted alone. The individual brought some items into the building with him, and then we had to work with our explosive ordnance unit to make sure that none of those items were of further hazard to the people on the scene, explained Lieutenant Catherine Buckley of Colorado Police. Anti-abortion activists have repeatedly targeted the Colorado Spring Clinic with protest. The facility is part of a national non-for-profit group which run more than 700 centers across America.
This is it for this edition. Thanks for staying with us. Have a great evening.